Galactic Chronicles. Chapter 1. The Kiss, Radius. She said no man could survive her kiss. Rex Prime's Imperial sector smelled like sponge sugar and sterilized metal. Elaine Rourke stood in violet moss trimmed like carpet, kinetic plate armor heavy on his shoulders, straps creaking when he shifted. He was the only human in the detail. The Vrax guards were tall, elegant, and cautious, keeping him in the edge of their formation like a blunt object. 10 meters, Captain Kalen hissed over comms. No deviation. Her radiance approaches. The promenade doors opened. Empress Lunessa stepped into the garden alone. Humanoid Vulpine, vivid orange fur, long ears swept back, copper hair falling in waves. Pale gold filaments glowed across her face and throat, pulsing slow like a warning. The palace called it divine. The outer systems called it the kiss radius. She paused by white blossoms and brushed a petal. It blackened, hissed, and crumbled to ash. Lunessa didn't react, but her shoulders tightened. She clasped her hands behind her back, as if hiding them could make her ordinary. Elaine's HUD stayed clean until the air bent near a trellis, one shimmer that didn't belong. Contact, Elaine said. Left flank, thermal cloak. Clear, Kalen snapped. A shot cracked. A kinetic slug shattered stone where Lunessa's head had been a heartbeat earlier. 3 cloaked shapes dropped their camouflage, armored assassins, rifles up. The Vrax shields flared, lances raised, but Doctrine held them at 10 meters. Lunessa stood exposed in the center of the path. Her glow lines surged brighter. Static lifted her fur. If anyone grabbed her, they'd die. If no one did, she'd be shot. The guards hesitated. Elaine moved. He hit her at a sprint, wrapped her waist, and drove them down behind the fountain rim as plasma stitched the air where she'd stood. Their skin met at the gap of his collar. The world went white. Power slammed into him, hot, violent, searching for his heart. His HUD died. His jaw locked, teeth rattling from the current. Let go, Lunessa gasped, hands on his throat. You'll die. It felt like live wire drilled into bone. Elaine held anyway. He dragged them tighter into cover while rounds chewed stone above them. Stay down, he rasped. Breathe. Lunessa stared at him, waiting for smoke and silence. His heartbeat hammered under her palm instead. The gunfire ended. Vrax lances hissed, bodies dropped. Silence flooded the garden. Elaine sat up, arms twitching from residual current, smoke curling from his collar seam. Lunessa slid back against the fountain, eyes fixed on his throat like it should be rotting already. Up close, she smelled like warm resin and rain on stone, something alive under all that palace clean air. She started, then swallowed the rest. Elaine flexed his fingers. I'm still here. Kalen approached, rifle half raised, staring at Elaine like he just committed blasphemy. You held her, Kalen said. While she flared. Elaine looked at Lunessa. Her fear had changed shape, less about what she could do, more about what she'd done to him. She's alive, Elaine said. That's the job. Lunessa's hands hovered at her sides, trembling like they didn't remember what harmless felt like. Medical, she ordered, voice tight. Quarantine. Now. As alarms and boots rushed in, Lunessa kept staring at the crushed moss where he'd wrapped around her like a shield. Like she'd been held. And Elaine, still burning, realized the assassination was the easy part. The hard part was the way she looked at him, like a rule had finally broken. Chapter 2. Quarantine Glass. The medical bay was a bright cage that smelled like cold alcohol. Elaine sat on the edge of a biobed in tight gray scrubs, armor gone, burned gel drying along his throat. Vrax medics moved in sealed suits, hands careful not to brush his skin. A scanner arm hovered over his collarbone, blinking uncertain yellow. Resistance profile abnormal, a medic whispered. He should be necrotic, another said. Behind the quarantine glass, Captain Kalen watched without stepping in. The door hissed.
And so
Empress
let's
Lunessa entered
forget
alone.
that
Orange
it'd be
fur, copper
grey
hair,
now.
long ears held high like blades. The gold filaments on her face were dim now, pulsing slow. She wore a robe that covered her to the throat, but no gloves. That choice felt louder than her crown.
Like it's
The medics
solid
bowed.
and stiff.
Leave, Lunessa said. Protocol. Leave. The room emptied, the door sealed. Quiet settled.
Well, it depends,
Lunessa stopped several paces away, her own
actually.
distance.
With crochet,
She studied
it
Elaine like a result
depends
that
if
threatened the world's math.
it
You should be dead, she said
solid
softly.
or
People keep trying, Elaine replied.
flexible
I have watched men
and
collapse from a kiss to my hand,
soft.
she said. I have watched their eyes go empty before they could breathe again. Her gaze flicked to his
Until you
throat.
make 'em,
You touched me while I flared. I tackled you, Elaine said. Different romance. A short breath escaped her, almost a laugh. It didn't stay. I felt something, Lunessa whispered. Not only my nature, something underneath. Like a mechanism seeking a lock. An implant, Elaine said. The council calls it sacred, she answered. A divine curse. A reminder that I must remain untouchable. Elaine leaned forward a fraction. Curses don't get tuned. Systems do. The gold filaments along her cheek brightened, then dimmed, like her body disliked the sentence. Lunessa stepped closer. The air crackled faintly. Elaine felt the charge lift the hair on his arms. Why didn't you let go? She asked. Because you were about to die, Elaine said, and your guards froze. Her jaw tightened at that, but she didn't deny it. I am promoting you, Lunessa said. Elaine blinked. Ma'am, you are now my shadow, she cut in. Close enough that I can breathe without the room becoming a weapon. That will make enemies, Elaine said. It already has, Lunessa replied. They cannot touch me, so they will reach for poison, for sabotage. For you. Her hand lifted and hovered near his jaw, an inch from contact, then hesitated. I need to be sure, she said. Here. Now. Elaine didn't move. Do it. Lunessa's fingertip brushed his cheek. Zap, blue and audible, jumped between them. Pain snapped clean and sharp. Elaine's jaw muscle jumped, but he held her gaze. Lunessa snatched her hand back and stared at the tiny red mark already fading. You're warm, she whispered, as if the word meant safe. Elaine swallowed. You're dangerous. For a second her eyes dropped to his mouth, then back up, and the air felt heavier. The legend wasn't only about death. It was about desire that had nowhere to go. Lunessa turned toward the glass. Captain Kalen. The lock clicked. Kalen entered, stiff and pale. Escort Officer Rourke to my sanctum, Lunessa said. Discreet. No council notice. Kalen's ears flicked in alarm. He lowered his voice. If the elders hear. That is an order, Lunessa said, and the room obeyed. As Elaine stood, the scanner arm beeped again, soft, insistent, and printed a thin strip of text. Foreign lattice detected. Control signal, external. Origin, council spire. Lunessa froze. Kalen went still. Elaine looked from the strip to Lunessa's dim, pulsing filaments. Whatever lived under her skin wasn't fate. It was governance. Chapter 3. The Distance Allowed. Lunessa's private sanctum was colder than the rest of the palace. Elaine felt at the moment the doors sealed behind them, a deliberate chill that crawled through fabric and bone. The Vracs preferred cool environments, but this was excessive. Climate control dialed down to suppress something volatile. Her. Stand there, Lunessa said, indicating a position near the far wall. That distance is traditional. Elaine nodded and took post, armor back on, rifle slung low. He scanned exits, vents, shadow seams. The room was circular, all dark stone and flowing metal, a single, massive bed at its center like an altar. No guards. No drones.
Okay.
Just them. Minutes stretched. The silence wasn't empty, it pressed.
How many did
You
I
read the
say I
scan,
wanted to
Lunessa said
do?
without turning. The lattice. Yes, ma'am.
Don't
Say it plainly.
remember.
Elaine exhaled. Someone modified you. The glow. The lethal
This
discharge.
is
It's regulated,
22. I
boosted,
need to get
controlled
it
from outside your body.
to-
Her shoulders rose and fell once. The council told me I was born wrong. That my kiss was death itself. Then they
That'll be
lied, Elaine said.
massive,
Or told the truth they engineered.
though. Don't think
She turned to
I'll
face
do
him.
that.
In the dim light, her orange fur looked almost copper, eyes reflecting gold. If this is a
I
system,
need to
she
do
said,
another
voice tight,
test.
then it can be turned down. Or off. Eventually, Elaine said. But whoever controls the signal will notice
I need to
interference.
do another
They
test
always
with
notice,
this
Lunessa replied.
pattern.
That's the point. She crossed the room slowly, stopping several
Just
steps
to
away.
see how
The gold
many I
filaments
need
along her
to
cheek brightened,
do.
then steadied. Elaine felt the familiar static prickle, a low hum just under hearing.
Side
You should sleep,
double
she said. I'll take watch,
plus
Elaine replied automatically. I know, she said.
that,
You'll sleep there. She pointed to the stone floor
and it
beside the
would
bed.
need to
Elaine
be a
looked down.
multiple of
Close. Too close for doctrine.
either 7
Understood.
or 40.
He settled against the wall, weapon across his knees. The stone leached heat fast. The room stayed cold. Hours passed. Sometime deep in the night,
Now
Fabric
that's
whispered.
22
Elaine opened his eyes.
currently.
Lunessa sat on the
Now
edge of the
I'm
bed,
gonna do
arms
at
wrapped
least
around
another
herself, ears flattened.
4.
Her breath fogged faintly.
It'd have to be
I am cold,
28.
she said quietly. The regulators are failing. Or being adjusted. Elaine checked the panel readouts. I can override. No, she said. They'll know.
That's
She hesitated,
too
then took one careful step
many,
closer.
I
You radiate heat. You said humans do. We do,
That's gonna be
Elaine said.
massive.
like furnaces with opinions. Sit,
If I
she said.
try to get it
Please.
28.
Elaine rose and sat on the bed's edge, boots still on stone, keeping space.
Wait, no.
He faced away from her.
'Cause it would be
Professional.
doubled.
Contained.
And
The mattress
so,
dipped. She curled behind him without touching, close enough that the static
44.
danced between their skins. The blankets came up around them, trapping his heat. He felt her shivering slow.
What's
Better?
next
He
in
asked.
the
Yes, she whispered.
17? No,
Silence again, but different now.
Is it
My
14?
necklace, Lunessa said.
The
The clasp
14
is small. The drone is
multiplication
offline.
table.
Elaine turned slightly. I'll be careful. She swept her hair aside, exposing the back of her neck.
14,
The glow there was faint, intimate.
28,
Elaine removed his gloves. His hands were scarred, blunt tools. He reached out. Static snapped softly as his fingers brushed her nape. Lunessa stiffened but didn't pull away. Easy, Elaine murmured. The clasp clicked open.
No.
As he lifted the chain, his thumb grazed her spine. She shuddered, not pain. Something else. A sound escaped her before she could stop it.
46.
Elaine
This
froze.
is gonna be
Sorry.
multiple
No,
of
she said
14
quickly.
plus
Don't be.
4.
He set the necklace
But
aside
the
and leaned back, distance
arrows
restored.
following
His heart was loud in his
might
ears.
change
Lunessa lay down behind him
that
again,
to
closer now, her
something
forehead resting between his shoulders. She didn't touch
If I
skin,
can find
didn't need to.
another
For my
pattern
entire
of
life,
right,
she said
I'll
softly.
change
Distance was
it.
safety. Elaine stared ahead into the
Right
dark.
now,
Sometimes distance is just another cage.
I'm gonna
She said nothing after that. Her breathing evened out, slow and steady. Sleep found her. Elaine stayed awake, body aching, nerves humming, realizing the
Use
council
some
hadn't only
marker.
built a weapon. They'd built a rule. And rules, once broken,
Thanks for
never
the
healed
book.
cleanly.
That was like
Chapter 4. The Public Myth.
halfway across
The summons
room
arrived
as
at
well
dawn.
as under-
Alan was still standing watch when the palace tone chimed once. Formal, unavoidable. Lunessa stirred behind him, her breath warm through the fabric of his tunic. She pulled back immediately, restoring distance like muscle memory snapping into place. "Read it," she said. Elaine checked the slate. Grand Hall, public reaffirmation, full council present. Her ears flicked flat. "They move quickly." "They're nervous," Elaine said. "Means we're right." Lunessa rose and crossed to the viewport overlooking the Capitol. Rex Prime glittered below, crystal spires, luminous bridges, a city built to be watched. She wrapped her arms around herself, then stopped and let them fall. "They will want spectacle," she said. "They always do." The Grand Hall was already full when they entered. Elders in refractive robes formed a perfect ring around the central dais. Nobles filled the tiers, voices low, expectant. This was theater. This was control. Elaine took position at Lunessa's right shoulder, closer than tradition allowed. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The High Counselor Soren stepped forward, skin dry and pale, eyes sharp with satisfaction. "Behold," he intoned, "the living judgment of the Vrax. Untouched. Untouchable." A servant approached with a golden chalice, vapor curling from its rim. "The sacrament," Sorenth continued, "to remind all that divinity demands distance." Elaine's HUD spiked. He stepped forward. "Hold!" The word cut clean through the hall. Soren sneered. "The animal speaks. Atmospheric sensors are screaming," Elaine said calmly. "Hydrogen cyanide, bitter almond." Gasps rippled outward. Lunessa's hand froze inches from the chalice. She looked at Elaine, then at Sorenth. "You poisoned it," she said. "For the state," Sorenth snapped. "You have grown unstable. You allowed the human too close." Elaine lifted his slate and spoke to it. "Analyze liquid." The AI's voice echoed through the hall. "Neurotoxin confirmed. Lethality, total for Vrax physiology." Silence fell like a dropped blade. Lunessa straightened. The gold filaments along her face brightened, not flaring, but focused. "Scan me," she said. Elaine hesitated. "Ma'am." "Now." He raised the scanner. Blue light washed over her. "Anomaly detected," the AI reported. "Subdermal lattice, synthetic origin. Control signal external." A sound went through the hall. Shock, denial, fury. "They lied," Lunessa whispered. "All of it." "It's a collar," Elaine said. "A governor. They turned you into a weapon and called it holy." Sorenth backed away. "Seize them." Guards moved. Elaine stepped in front of Lunessa, rifle rising. "Anyone comes closer dies." "Wait," Lunessa said. The lattice under her skin surged violently, reacting to her stress. Sparks snapped across the stone. She cried out and dropped to her knees. "Get away!" she gasped. "It's overloading." Elaine dropped with her. He pulled her into his chest, arms locking around her as the power detonated outward. Pain ripped through him, acid and fire and light. His vision tunneled. "Ground it," he forced out. "Give it to me." Lunessa sobbed, then clutched him like a lifeline. The surge slowed. The glow steadied. For the first time, the hall didn't see a goddess. They saw a woman being held. When the power faded, Sorenth was gone, fleeing through the chaos. Alarms screamed. The council guards regrouped. Elaine hauled Lunessa to her feet. "We're leaving." "How?" she asked, shaking. Elaine looked at the stained glass window behind the dais. Violently. He kicked it out. They jumped together into the open air as the myth shattered behind them. Chapter 5. Into the Wild. Signal. Wind tore past them as the stained glass exploded outward. Colored shards spun like frozen sparks while gravity took hold. Tunessa screamed once, a sharp, startled sound, then Elaine twisted midair and pulled her tight against his chest. He hit the terrace below hard, armor screaming, knees bending deep to eat the impact. Stone cracked. His teeth clacked together. He was up immediately. "Move," he said. Palace alarms wailed behind them, layered and escalating. Drones poured from the spires like hornets, sensor lights sweeping the terraces. Lunessa clung to him for a half-second too long, then caught herself and ran beside him, breath ragged. "They'll seal the gates," she said. "All exits. We're not using them." Elaine veered toward the ornamental falls at the terrace edge, a wide spill of water feeding the city's aqueduct. Mist filled the air. The drop beyond was a vertical ribbon of white. Lunessa skidded to a stop. "Vrax do not swim." "Good," Elaine said. "I do." He tackled her again, this time into freezing water. The shock stole her breath. The current slammed them sideways, violent and relentless. Lunessa thrashed, instinct screaming, but Elaine locked an arm around her waist and kicked hard, dense muscle fighting the flow. His armor dragged, pulling them under, but he angled toward the maintenance overflow he'd spotted during perimeter sweeps. They vanished into darkness as drones streaked overhead, blind to the cold rush below. They surfaced far from the city, coughing on a muddy bank beneath towering black trees. The Obsidra forest swallowed sound and light alike. Lunessa collapsed to her knees, shivering uncontrollably, fur-soaked and heavy. "I can't," she whispered. "My core!" Elaine hauled her up, scanning the canopy. "You can. We just can't stop here." He scooped her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her head fell against his shoulder, teeth chattering hard enough to hurt. Night fell fast. The temperature dropped with it. Elaine found shelter beneath the roots of a massive tree, a shallow cavern, dry and defensible. He stripped off soaked plating, stacked it to block the wind, and struck a small, smokeless flare. Firelight flickered weakly. It wasn't enough. Lunessa's glow dimmed to a sickly ember. Her skin cooled under his hands. "Lunessa," he said. No response. Elaine swore and lay down beside her. He pulled her back against his bare chest, wrapping his arms and legs around her, sealing space. The moment their skin touched, the lattice surged. Electricity ripped through him. His muscles seized. A raw sound tore from his throat. "Easy!" he gasped. "Easy!" The pain didn't stop. It pulsed, relentless, every breath another strike. He focused on breathing anyway, on keeping his body loose enough to take it. Heat bled from him into her, slow but steady. Lunessa gasped awake. "Allah, no, you're burning." "I'm fine," he lied. "Don't move." She turned in his arms, eyes wide with fear for him. Her hand pressed to his chest, right over his heart. The shock made him jerk, but he leaned into it. "Why?" she asked. "Why can you endure this?" "Gravity," he said. "Evolution. Stubborn design." She studied his face, then leaned closer, drawn by the heat he couldn't turn off. The air between them sparked faintly, blue arcs dancing where their skin nearly met. "You are the only being in the galaxy who can touch me," she said. Elaine swallowed. "Yeah." She brushed her lips against his jaw, tentative, testing. Static cracked sharp and intimate. It hurt. It also didn't stop him. When she kissed him, it was like kissing a storm, metallic, electric, alive. Pain and warmth fused into something neither of them had language for. Outside, the forest stayed silent. Inside the roots of the world, the Empress learned her curse could bridge instead of kill. And far away, something massive began to search for the signal they had just broken. Chapter 6: Resonance Hunters. Elaine woke before dawn because the forest went wrong. No insects, no small wingbeats. The Obsidian canopy held its breath. Even the damp smelled cleaner, like something had burned the air and scrubbed the ash away. He sat up slowly, every muscle sore from being a conduit all night. His skin still tingled in waves. Lunessa slept curled against his side, ears tucked back, her glow steady and warm, too warm for safety. He watched the gold filaments under her fur pulse with each slow breath. A twig snapped somewhere far out. Not an animal, a machine trying to imitate one. Elaine leaned close. Lunessa! Her eyes opened instantly. Not startled. Trained. What? She whispered. Listen. She listened. Her ears lifted, micro-adjusting, and her pupils narrowed. They're here! Elaine stood, moving without clatter, pulling his outer plating back on. We leave now. Lunessa sat up, fur still damp, hair tangled, means nothing, crownless, robeless, just a woman with power stitched into her skin by people who called it holy. A low hum rolled through the roots. It wasn't sound exactly, it was pressure. Like the air itself was being tuned. Lunessa flinched, hands snapping to her throat. Resonance. Elaine's stomach tightened. Explain! They'll use a frequency to excite the lattice, she said, voice suddenly tight with memory. Force it into overload. Cook me from the inside. The council kept that device for executions. A shadow moved between trunks. Then another. A quadrupedal walker stepped into the clearing like a cathedral made of metal. Sleek limbs. Shield plating. A dorsal dish rotating slowly, gathering power. Around it, council guards fanned out in black coats with rifles that looked too expensive for mercy. A voice boomed from the walker's canopy. End of the line, Shadow. Lunessa's glow flickered as if it recognized the command. Elaine pushed her behind a rock outcrop. Stay down. He raised his rifle and fired 3 tight bursts. The rounds sparked uselessly against the walker's shields, tiny bright insults swallowed by field light. The dish began to spin faster. The hum sharpened into a needle in the skull. Lunessa clutched her chest and made a small, broken sound. Her filaments flashed erratic gold, then white. They're triggering it, she gasped. Allah, if it spikes. Surrender, the pilot shouted. Or we purge the host. Lunessa started to rise. Elaine grabbed her wrist. No! If I don't, she whispered, eyes wet, they'll kill you to get to me. They'll try, Elaine said. But I'm still here. He looked at the walker, then at the dish. It wasn't just a signal. It was a weapon designed to find her and turn her body against itself. He made a decision that felt cold and simple. I need speed, he said. He tossed his rifle into the mud. Lunessa stared like he'd just thrown away his spine. What are you doing? Fixing a machine problem. He sprinted straight into the clearing. Plasma fire snapped past him. Dirt erupted. He felt heat graze his shoulder plate. He didn't slow. He hit the walker's foreleg and jumped, magnetic clamps in his boots biting into metal with a hard, satisfying thud. He climbed fast, armor servos whining under strain. The dish was above him, glowing. The hum became a scream. Elaine! Lunessa's voice cracked across the clearing. Stop! He reached the dorsal mount and tore open a maintenance panel with both hands. Inside, thick conduction coils glowed white-blue, alive with stored violence. He couldn't smash it in time. So he did the only thing he'd been doing since the garden. He grabbed it. Both hands plunged into the coils. The weapon fired. A beam of resonance ripped outward, then found the path of least resistance. Elaine. Pain didn't describe it. It was pure instruction. Every nerve lit at once. His armor softened. The smell of burnt cloth and ionized air filled his mouth. Lightning scar patterns crawled across his arms and branching fractals. He screamed until his throat tore. His vision narrowed to a bright tunnel. He felt his heart stutter. Stop. He held tighter. Below, Lunessa staggered as the lattice inside her went suddenly quiet, cut off mid-command. Her glow snapped from violent white to stunned gold. The walker's system spasmed, then died. Its legs buckled. It collapsed into the earth like a kneeling beast. Elaine's hands slipped from the coils. He fell. Metal blurred to trees, trees to mud, then nothing. Silence landed heavy. Lunessa stood frozen, staring at the smoking shape in the dirt. Free. And watching the only ground she'd ever had stop breathing. Chapter 7. The Grounding Pulse. Lunessa moved before the echoes finished dying. She crossed the clearing in a blur of orange fur and gold light, dropping to her knees in the churned mud beside Elaine's body. Steam curled off his armor. The lightning scars across his arms glowed faintly, like dying stars. He wasn't breathing. Her hands hovered over his chest, trembling, afraid to touch even now. Old instincts screamed that contact meant death, that she was poison, that she would only make it worse. "No," she said, voice breaking. "You don't get to leave." She pressed her ear to his chest. Nothing. No thunderous human heartbeat. No stubborn rhythm refusing to quit. Around them, the council guards lay unconscious, scattered like discarded pieces. The walker smoked quietly, dead metal cooling in the dawn air. Free. The word meant nothing if he was gone. Lunessa placed both hands flat on Elaine's chest. The lattice beneath her skin stirred, confused. Without the council's signal, it had no master, only instinct. Power gathered, raw and unshaped, no longer weaponized but still immense. She inhaled, centering herself the way she'd been trained not to. The way no one had ever allowed her to try. "You grounded me," she whispered. "Now take it back." She focused the surge, not outward but inward, compressing it, shaping it, aiming for the silent muscle beneath her palms. She released it in a single, controlled pulse. Elaine's body arched violently. Mud splashed. His lungs spasmed, empty. Nothing. Lunessa choked back a sob and did it again, harder this time, pouring everything she had left into him. Her glow flared brilliant gold, lighting the clearing like a sunrise. "Come back," she said, voice raw. "That's an order." Thump. Elaine gasped, a harsh, tearing sound, dragging air into his lungs like he was stealing it from the world. He rolled onto his side, coughing, fingers clawing at the ground. Lunessa collapsed forward, clutching him, forehead pressed to his shoulder, shaking. She didn't care if it hurt him now. She didn't care about rules. He was breathing. Elaine blinked up at the canopy, vision swimming. "You hit me with a star." She laughed once, wet and hysterical, then covered her mouth as if afraid the sound might undo him. "You were dead." "Yeah," he rasped. Felt inefficient. She helped him sit, hands steady now, her touch warm without bite. No sparks. No pain. The lattice inside her was silent, dormant, stripped of command. Elaine looked at her hands on his chest, then at his own scarred arms. "It's gone." "Yes," Lunessa said. "They can't reach me anymore." He leaned back against a fallen root, chest heaving. "Good. Because I don't want to do that again." She smiled through tears and pressed her forehead to his. "Liar." They didn't stay long. Elaine couldn't stand without swaying, and Lunessa still radiated enough heat to light a path through the forest if they lingered. She helped him up, arm under his shoulder, bearing his weight without fear. The walk back toward civilization was slow and silent. By the time the sun fully cleared the canopy, Elaine's heart had found a steadier rhythm. The lightning scars across his skin faded from angry white to pale silver, permanent and unmistakable. Proof. They reached the ridge overlooking Rex Prime's outer sprawl by midday. Smoke rose from the palace spires. Sirens echoed faintly, panicked and directionless. The Empire was waking up without its leash. Lunessa stopped and looked back at the forest, then at Elaine. "When they tell this story," she said, "they will say you were fearless." Elaine snorted softly. "I was terrified." She took his hand. Properly this time, no charge. No warning hum. Just skin against skin. "Then they will say the truth," she replied. "And they will still call you brave." Elaine squeezed her fingers, grounding himself in something real. What happens now? Lunessa turned toward the city, eyes steady, glow calm and natural. Now, she said, we go take my throne back. Without the myth. They stood there together as the sun climbed higher, an empress unchained and the human who had survived her kiss, ready to break what remained. Chapter 8. A Throne Without Teeth. Rex Prime was loud when they returned. Not the polished hum of commerce or ceremony, but the sound of systems arguing with themselves, sirens overlapping, drones circling without clear command, traffic grids stalling and restarting as authority fractured mid-signal. Elaine felt it in his bones. Empires made noise when they realized the rules had changed. They didn't enter through gates. They entered through consequence. A loyalist shuttle, its pilot shaking, eyes wide at Lunessa's ungloved hands, set them down on a mid-level landing ring just below the palace crown. Smoke drifted from the upper spires. The council spire itself was dark, its once constant signal tower dead. Lunessa stepped onto the platform and paused. For the first time in her life, nothing pushed back. No invisible pressure, no warning hum, no instinctive fear from the air itself. She exhaled slowly. Stay close, Elaine said, testing his weight. His heart still felt like it was being negotiated with, but it beat when asked. That was enough. I don't need distance anymore, Lunessa replied. The corridor guards saw them coming. They froze, some lowered weapons. Others hesitated, eyes flicking to Lunessa's bare hands, waiting for the glow that never flared. A few fell to their knees without being told. The council has fallen, Lunessa said, her voice carrying without amplification. Stand down. A captain stepped forward, pulse rifle trembling. Your radiance, the curse, was a lie, Lunessa said. And you were never meant to die for it. The rifle lowered. Words spread faster than orders ever had. By the time they reached the grand hall, the chamber was half empty. Elders had fled. Screens showed emergency assemblies dissolving into argument. The remaining councilors stood rigid, robes dim without their control lattice humming beneath the city. Sorinth was there, older now, smaller. You cannot undo a god, he spat when he saw her. They need you untouchable, afraid. Lunessa walked past the dais and stopped inches from him, close enough to kiss. I was never your god, she said quietly. I was your excuse. She placed her palm on his chest. Nothing happened. No sparks, no scream, no death. Sorinth broke. He collapsed backward, sobbing, reduced to a man confronted with the ordinary. Elaine watched the room recalibrate in real time. Fear drained away, replaced by something more dangerous to tyrants, relief. Lunessa turned to the assembly. The lattice is gone. The myth ends today. Those who rule by distance will answer for it. Those who stayed silent will help rebuild. She looked at Elaine then, not as a shield, not as ground, but as a choice. I will rule present, she said, among my people, not above them. Later, when the hall was empty, and the city outside had settled into an uneasy quiet, Lunessa sat on the edge of the throne. It looked smaller now. Elaine stood beside it, arms folded, scars catching the low light. They'll keep calling you dangerous, he said. She smiled faintly. Good. I am. Just not to those I love. She reached for him, not carefully, not hesitantly. She kissed him. There was no lightning, no pain, no legend asserting itself. Just warmth. Elaine closed his eyes and returned it, slow and certain. Outside, Rex Prime adjusted its orbit around a truth it could no longer deny. The Empress could be touched, and the human was still alive. Chapter 9. The Weight of Peace. Peace arrived without ceremony. No banners, no hymns, just exhaustion settling into the bones of a city that had spent centuries holding its breath. Elaine sat on the balcony outside Lunessa's chambers, a mug cooling in his hands. He wore a loose tunic now, stiff fabrics irritated the scars. The lightning patterns across his arms and neck had faded to pale silver, branching maps of pain that no medtech could erase. They didn't bother him. They reminded him where gravity ended and choice began. Below, the gardens were full again. Rack's families spread blankets across violet moss. Children chased low drones that dipped and spun for laughter instead of surveillance. Flowers bloomed without dying at a touch. The absence of fear was subtle, but it changed everything. The door slid open behind him. Lunessa stepped out, crownless, barefoot, fur catching the late light. Her glow was softer now, warm gold instead of warning flare, natural. Hers. "You're hiding," she said. "I'm Overwatch," Elaine replied. "Habit." She leaned against the railing beside him, shoulder brushing his arm. "You check the perimeter every hour. Paranoia keeps you breathing." She smiled. "Or it keeps you alone." He didn't answer. She didn't press. For a while they watched the city settle into itself. "The Council of Worlds sent a communique," Lunessa said at last. "They want a treaty. With Earth." Elaine snorted. "They want to know if all humans ground like this. They asked for a demonstration," she said, "of resilience." "And you?" "I told them to look at my consort," she replied, eyes on his scars. "And to understand that Earth is not interested in myths." Elaine flexed his fingers. "Good. I don't perform well on command." She turned toward him, studying his face the way she always did now, like checking a horizon. "They still call it the Kiss radius in the outer systems. Legends lag reality," Elaine said. "Give it time." Lunessa took his hand and placed it against her cheek. Skin to skin. Nothing sparked. She frowned slightly. "It's quiet," she murmured. "Sometimes I miss the hum." Elaine stepped closer and kissed her, slow and deliberate. When he pulled back, her ears flicked, breath uneven. "Still sparks," he said. She laughed, clear, unguarded, and rested her forehead against his. "You are impossible." "Durable," he corrected. The sun dipped lower, painting the spires in amber. Lights flickered on across Rex Prime, not in fear but routine. Below, a child waved up at the balcony. Lunessa waved back. Elaine watched her do it, and felt the weight of peace settle. Not light, not easy, but earned. Something you had to stand guard over, even when the war ended. He tightened his grip on her hand. Not as a shield, not as ground. As someone choosing to stay. Chapter 10. The Frequency We Chose. 3 years changed the Empire quietly. Not with monuments or rewritten prayers, but with habits. Doors stayed open. Guards stood closer. Children learned early that the Empress laughed, that her hands were warm, that proximity was not a sin. Elaine felt the difference most in the mornings. The palace no longer woke him with alarms or protocol tones. Sunlight filtered through wide glass instead of armored slats. Lunessa sat beside him now, not carefully positioned, not restrained by distance. Her breathing was steady, her weight real against his chest. He traced the faint gold glow along her shoulder with a scarred thumb. It never reacted. No charge, no warning, just skin. "You're staring again," she murmured, eyes still closed. "Checking continuity," Elaine said. "Reality has a habit of reverting." She smiled and shifted closer. "It won't." The Council of Worlds arrived that afternoon, not as conquerors or judges but as observers. Their envoys filled the grand hall with cautious curiosity, eyes drawn again and again to Elaine standing at Lunessa's side without armor. One envoy leaned forward. "You grounded her," they said. "By physiology alone?" Elaine shrugged. "By choice." Lunessa took his hand before the room could reinterpret the gesture. "The lattice is gone. The myth remains only if you keep repeating it. And if others like you exist?" Another envoy pressed. "They don't," Elaine said flatly. "And that's fine." Lunessa's glow warmed, pleased. "We are not a template. We are an outcome. The treaty passed without spectacle. Earth gained nothing but honesty. The Vrax gained something rarer, trust without distance. That evening, the Festival of Lights filled the gardens. It used to be a ritual of fear, the Empress glowing alone while her people watched from afar. Now it was a picnic. Music drifted through trees. Lanterns floated on water that reflected stars. Elaine stood at the terrace rail, watching Linessa move among her people. Elders clasped her hands without flinching. Children tugged her sleeves. She knelt to listen. She touched. She stayed. Captain Kalen approached, older now, steadier. "Perimeter's clean," he said. "As always?" Elaine nodded. "Thanks." Kalen hesitated, then smiled. "You know they call you the Iron Consort." Elaine winced. "Sounds heavy." "They mean it kindly," Kalen said. "They say you're proof the system can be broken." Elaine watched Linessa laugh at something a child said, glow brightening in a way that had nothing to do with danger. "Good," he replied. "Then let it stay broken." Lunessa looked up across the garden and found him instantly. The glow at her temples shifted. Not gold, not warning, but something private. A frequency only he answered. She walked toward him as the crowd parted, not out of fear but respect. "You're brooding," she said, sliding her hands around his waist. "I'm counting," Elaine replied. "Counting what?" "The odds," he said. "Finding the one being in the galaxy who fits your frequency." She leaned in, forehead to his chest. "I prefer to think you were tuned." He kissed the top of her head. "I prefer to think I'm dense." She laughed and tipped her face up to his. "They still say no man could survive my kiss." Elaine met her eyes, steady, human, unafraid. "They were right," he said. "Most men couldn't." She kissed him anyway. No lightning, no myth, just warmth, breath, and the weight of a choice made every day. Above them, lanterns rose into the night like quiet stars. Two anomalies, standing where distance used to be law. Chapter 11. The human held her anyway. Legends simplify things. They turn choices into destiny, accidents into prophecy, and people into symbols that stop breathing the moment the story ends. Elaine had learned that the hard way. The galaxy already told his story wrong in 1,000 systems. They said the Empress's kiss had been conquered. They said the human was immune. They said love had rewritten physics. None of that was true. The truth was quieter. It lived in mornings when Lunessa woke before him and stayed still, listening to his heartbeat like it might vanish if she startled it. It lived in the way Elaine still checked exits when they entered a room, even now, even here. It lived in the scars that ached when storms rolled over Rex Prime, lightning remembered by flesh. 3 years after the council fell, the palace felt almost ordinary. Almost. Elaine stood at the balcony rail, watching dusk settle across the capital. The city no longer glowed with fear response lighting. Windows stayed open. People lingered outside after dark. The absence of distance had changed the architecture of daily life. Behind him, fabric whispered. "You're drifting again," Linessa said. She joined him at the rail, orange fur catching the last light, bioluminescence soft and steady. No guards flinched when she leaned into him. No one stepped back when her hand rested on his forearm. "I'm thinking about the first time you touched me," Elaine said. She smiled faintly. "You tackled me into stone." "Romantic," he replied. "You didn't hesitate," she said. "That part still frightens me." Elaine looked down at his hands. Scarred, dense, human. "I hesitated plenty. I just moved anyway." Below them, the gardens filled with lanterns as night settled. Children ran between tables. Elders spoke freely. A musician struck a wrong note and laughed instead of apologizing. Linessa watched it all like someone still learning what ownership meant. "They asked me today if I fear being touched," she said. "And?" "I said no." She paused. "But I said I respect it." She turned toward him fully. The power never left me entirely. It's quieter, natural. If I chose to hurt, I could. Elaine met her gaze. You always could. That was the point. She stepped closer, close enough that old instincts should have screamed. They didn't. The air stayed calm. The galaxy didn't correct itself. They still repeat the phrase, Lanessa said. In the outer systems. In old broadcasts. No man could survive her kiss. Elaine huffed. Lazy writing. Perhaps. She lifted her chin slightly, eyes searching his. But they never finished the sentence. He waited. They never say what happened after, she said. They never say that the human stayed, that he chose the pain, that he didn't conquer anything. He just held. Elaine rested his forehead against hers. I'm still holding. She closed her eyes, relief moving through her like a tide that never quite receded. I know. They kissed, not to test fate, not to prove anything, not to challenge a myth. Just because the moment existed. Warmth. Breath. Balance. Below them, lanterns lifted into the night sky, drifting without pattern, without command. No signals chased them. No hands reached out to pull them back down. Lanessa leaned into Elaine's chest, listening to the steady rhythm she'd once thought impossible. They'll keep telling the story wrong, she said. Let them, Elaine replied. Means they're still talking. She smiled, small and real, and wrapped her arms around his waist. She had said no man could survive her kiss. The human loved her anyway. Chapter 12. After the warning. History didn't know where to put them, the academies argued. The archivists fought over classifications. Was the Empress's liberation a technological scandal, a political revolution, or a biological anomaly? Was the human a statistical outlier or a replicable asset? Elaine ignored all of it. He learned early that when institutions get confused, they start trying to simplify. Simplification was how cages were rebuilt. The morning air over Rex Prime carried the scent of wet stone and flowering moss. Elaine stood on the upper terrace, stretching stiffness from his shoulders, lightning scars pale against his skin. They still ached sometimes, especially when storms gathered beyond the horizon. He liked that. It reminded him the cost was real. Behind him, Lanessa finished braiding her hair. She no longer wore ceremonial bindings or insulating layers. Her orange fur caught the light naturally, bioluminescence a soft, living gold that rose and fell with her mood instead of command signals. You're early, she said. Couldn't sleep, Elaine replied. Dreamt I was back in the garden. She stepped up beside him. The fountain? The first one, he said. Before everything broke. Lanessa nodded. I used to think that was the loneliest place in the palace. And now? Now it's just a garden. They watched the city wake. Cargo skimmers traced familiar routes. Markets opened. People touched each other without fear. Ordinary things, once impossible. The Council of Worlds had sent a final communique the night before. Short, careful, respectful. They would record the incident as a singular convergence of biology, technology, and personal agency. Non-repeatable, non-exploitable. Lanessa had approved the wording personally. Let the universe understand this wasn't a loophole, she'd said. It was a choice. Elaine felt her fingers slip into his, warm and steady. No spark, no hum, no myth demanding attention. You know they still warn visitors, she said quietly. They tell them my kiss was once fatal. Elaine smiled faintly. Warnings aren't bad. They just need context. She leaned her head against his shoulder. What's the context? That danger doesn't disappear, he said. It gets negotiated. Below them, a young Vrax couple laughed as they crossed the plaza, hands intertwined without thinking. Elaine watched Lanessa notice it, watched the old tension flicker and fade. You changed the frequency, she said. We both did, Elaine replied. You stopped being a signal. I stopped being ground. Now we're just compatible. She turned toward him, expressions soft and sharp all at once. If the lattice had never existed, if the council had never interfered, then I'd still be hauling scrap in dead orbits, Elaine said. And you'd still be alone in a perfect room. Silence held them, not heavy, just honest. I don't regret it, Vanessa said. Me neither. Later that day, they walked the gardens openly. No perimeter distance. No hush following her footsteps. Children waved. Elders bowed without fear in their eyes. A historian approached, recorder in hand, voice tentative. Your Radiance, may I ask how you wish this era to be remembered? Vanessa looked at Elaine before answering. As the moment we stopped confusing survival with isolation, she said, and remember that power doesn't require distance. The historian nodded, awed, and backed away. That evening, as the city lights mirrored the stars above, Elaine and Vanessa returned to the terrace. Wind moved through her hair. He rested his hands at her waist, solid, familiar. You know, Elaine said, they're still going to repeat the first line. She smiled. Let them. They'll say no man could survive your kiss. She turned in his arms, eyes reflecting the city. And the rest? Elaine leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her lips, warm, human, ordinary in the best way. They'll forget the important part, he said softly. She closed her eyes, content. Then we'll keep living it. Above them, the night held steady. No alarms. No warnings. No corrections from the universe. Just two beings who had crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed, and stayed. Chapter 13, Epilogue. The Kiss Rewritten. The warning plaque was still there. It stood at the edge of the old sapphire gardens, polished clean, text preserved for visiting dignitaries and historians who needed their myths anchored to something solid. Historical notice. This site marks the first recorded survival within the Empress's kiss radius. Elaine stopped in front of it, hands in his pockets, scars faint under the morning sun. Radius, he muttered. Makes it sound like artillery. Lunessa stood beside him, reading the plaque with the mild curiosity of someone reviewing an old medical file. She wore a simple wrap, no crown, no guards hovering at ritual distance. Her bioluminescence was barely visible in daylight, soft, natural, unremarkable. Do you want it removed? She asked. Elaine shook his head. Nah, let it stay. Warnings age better than erasures. They walked into the garden. Flowers grew where ash once lay. Vines climbed freely over stone that had been scorched by plasma and myth. The fountain had been rebuilt, not ceremonial, just functional, water moving because water liked to move. They sat on the fountain's edge. For a while, neither spoke. Across the garden, a pair of off-world visitors whispered and stared. One of them nudged the other and pointed, subtle, reverent, afraid to get too close. Lunessa noticed. She always did. She stood, crossed the distance, and offered her hand to the nearest visitor. The visitor froze. Then, carefully, took it. Nothing happened. Relief crossed the visitor's face so hard it looked like pain. When Lunessa returned, Elaine smiled. Still breaking rules. She sat beside him again. Still rewriting them. The Council of Worlds would argue for another century about causality, about biology, about whether the universe had made an exception or revealed a flaw. Elaine didn't care. He knew the truth was smaller and heavier than theory. He hadn't survived her kiss because he was immune. He hadn't grounded her because he was special. He hadn't broken a system because he was chosen. He stayed because leaving would have been easier. Lunessa leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. Her fingers laced with his, warm and sure. You know, she said quietly, they've started teaching it differently in the academies. Oh? Elaine replied. They don't say no man could survive her kiss anymore. What do they say? She smiled, eyes on the water. They say the kiss was never the danger. The distance was. Elaine considered that, then nodded. Sounds right. She turned, kissed him, slow, ordinary, human and vulpine and unremarkable in all the ways that mattered. No sparks, no pain, no legend asserting itself. Just two people who had ignored a warning and lived long enough to change what it meant.
Reclaim beats.